At 080 hours local time, somewhere in occupied northeastern Iran, a Revolutionary Guard command post is checking encrypted messaging apps instead of monitoring their air defense radar screens. They have no idea that 120 kilometers away, an American F-35 Lightning II is screaming toward them at subsonic speed, its radar cross-section smaller than a marble, about to deliver precision American firepower. While the mission has been going according to plan so far, this would all change in a matter of seconds. A previously unknown Iranian air defense system starts lighting up the American jet. The F-35's threat warning receiver explodes with alarms cascading across the pilot's helmet-mounted display. X-band radiation is painting the aircraft from 280 kilometers away. The pilot taps the throttle control, banking hard right while maintaining his low-altitude course. The Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine hums at cruise power, stealth profile more important than raw speed at this moment. An upgraded S-300 variant, purchased years ago from the Russians and heavily modified by Iranian engineers, has found him. Its phased array radar, 3,000 electronic modules steering invisible beams through the Persian sky without moving a single rotating dish. A Sayyad-3 missile, Iran's most advanced air-to-air adaptation, erupts from its launcher. Sees meters of bad news accelerating at Mach 12 in the time it takes to tie your shoes. Inside the Iranian command vehicle, operators watch their track number 47, their designation for this particular F-35, as the missile streaks toward the calculated intercept point. The missile isn't chasing the plane, it's flying to where mathematics says the plane will be in 100 seconds. This is possible because of a thing called proportional navigation, the same principle that guided missiles decades ago and continues to guide modern systems. The same math a quarterback uses when throwing to a receiver running downfield. The missile doesn't follow the aircraft's path like a dog chasing a car. Instead, it calculates the shortest route to an intercept point, like cutting across a parking lot instead of following the sidewalk. The S-300's computer solves this geometry problem 100 times per second, constantly updating where that magic meeting point will be based on the F-35's current speed and heading. But the F-35 pilot has advantages the Ukrainians don't possess. His aircraft is designed from the ground up to be invisible to conventional radar. Every surface angle, every edge, every panel has been calculated to scatter humming radar waves away from their source. His airframe is coated with a radar-absorbent material that drinks electromagnetic energy like a sponge drinks water. As the missile accelerates toward him, the Iranian radar operators see something that shouldn't exist according to their training manuals. The target is fading, not disappearing completely, but degrading, becoming less distinct as the F-35 maneuvers slightly, using terrain masking to break line of sight. At 600 feet above the Iranian desert, the pilot dives toward a wadi. A dry riverbed cuts through the landscape like a scar. The planet's geography creates a radar shadow the S-300 can't penetrate. At this range, the horizon blocks everything below 1,200 feet. The missile receives updates through its data link. Target last seen heading 270. Speed 450 knots. Altitude unknown but descending. It's essentially flying blind, guided probability rather than certainty. But the S-300's computer is learning his patterns. The common filtering algorithms combine what the radar sees with physics predictions. Current speed and heading suggest where he'll be. American tactics dictate that the pilot must pop up for weapons release at a specific altitude and speed window. Previous intelligence, gathered from years of studying American procedures, suggests preferred approach routes and release parameters. The system isn't just tracking, it's predicting, calculating exactly where this pilot will appear based on dozens of analyzed American strike patterns gathered from conflicts in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. The missile adjusts course toward that predicted point, betting that physics beats human unpredictability. The pilot watches his threat display calculate time to impact while fuel gauges show comfortable margins. The F-35 carries more fuel than its predecessor, the F-16, and the sortie was planned with generous reserves. Every second spent evading Iranian air defenses is noted, but unlike older aircraft, the F-35 was designed for this exact scenario. At low altitude, the F-135 engine burns fuel efficiently, around 250 pounds per minute, well within mission parameters. The pilot's helmet display shows him everything. Fused sensor data from the aircraft's 35 sensors creates a complete picture. The Northrop Grumman and APG-1 ASA radar, despite being turned off for stealth purposes, has been receiving passive signals. The infrared search and track system paints heat sources. The electronic warfare suite maps the enemy radar network. The distributed aperture system creates a god's eye view of the entire area. When the first Sayyad-3 launches toward empty sky, the pilot already knows it's coming before the Iranian operators confirm the launch. His threat computer has been tracking the radar emissions, calculating launch probability, and now watching the missile's seeker activate and search. But how much fuel he has suddenly becomes the least of his concerns. The second Iranian air defense battery lights up 310 kilometers away inside Iranian territory, hidden in a valley the Americans haven't yet identified. But this one isn't tracking actively, it's gambling. A Khordad system, Iran's domestically produced medium-range air defense, launches a missile toward empty sky program to arrive where statistics say American aircraft appear. The Iranians have turned air defense into probability math, shooting at patterns instead of planes. This predictive barrage works because mission requirements create predictability. To release a Joint Strike missile from maximum range requires specific altitude and speed. The weapon is basically a cruise missile with a rocket booster. It needs altitude to coast 70 kilometers to target. The missile also needs exactly the right airspeed to launch properly. Too fast, and the booster might not separate cleanly. Too slow, and the guidance system won't achieve optimal trajectory. The sweet spot, 22,000 feet at 380 knots, appears in Iranian intelligence databases dozens of times, gathered from studying open-source flight profiles and interceptions. They're betting this pilot will hit that same window because physics gives him no choice. The Khordad missile flies to its designated ambush point and waits, its infrared seeking empty sky like a predator watching a game trail. After 12 seconds of finding nothing, it self-destructs. 150 kilograms of explosive, creating a brief fireball that accomplishes nothing except warming some air molecules miles above Iranian territory. But the first S-300 hasn't given up. Its operators have recalculated based on the F-35's new trajectory, feeding updated intercept solutions into their remaining missiles. At 280 kilometers, even modern missiles need time to arrive, time the pilot uses to disappear into terrain and exploit every advantage his aircraft provides. The system's greatest strength, its extreme range, becomes a weakness when targets refuse to fly predictable paths. The pilot's deviation, combined with his aircraft's stealth characteristics, puts him in a position where the Iranian radar operators are essentially flying blind. They can see something, but what they see doesn't match their expectations. In their database, an F-35 should have a radar cross-section of around 0.01 square meters. What they're seeing is degraded, intermittent, more consistent with a bird or weather return than a multi-billion-dollar stealth fighter. The pilot's deviation puts him directly in front of a Toram-1 battery positioned 95 kilometers away. Its rotating phased array radar is already tracking something interesting, but the F-35's design defeats this system too. Unlike older fighters that broadcast their position through continuous radar emissions, the F-35 is silent. Its engines don't radiate excessive heat signature at cruise altitude. Its electronic warfare systems jam and deceive rather than engage in an electronic conversation with enemy radars. The Toram-1's 12,000 electronic eyes create pencil-thin beams that attempt to track with surgical precision, but they're chasing ghosts. No rotating dish, just pure electronic steering that can follow a dozen targets while guiding missiles to half of them simultaneously. But there's nothing to guide. The radar operator watches his screen, increasingly confused. Multiple hits appear and disappear. The radar is seeing reflections from terrain, false targets created by the 35's electronic warfare system, and occasional genuine glimpses of the aircraft. Two 9M330 missiles are launched anyway, based on calculated probability and educated guesswork rather than solid tracking data. These aren't the strategic hammers. They're tactical weapons designed for close-range engagement, but the target is neither where they calculated nor where they predicted. According to Iranian operational manuals, the missiles are supposed to accelerate to Mach 6 using a ramjet sustained profile that conserves fuel for the endgame when targets attempt evasion. But the pilot's evasion began before the missiles were even launched. The pilot's threat warning system chirps rather than screams. His aircraft's fusion system has detected the missile launches through passive methods, watching the radar spike in power output, calculating the geometry, and alerting him to threats before they can become dangerous. He banks left toward a mountain ridge, his aircraft's computer automatically calculating the optimal maneuver to break targeting solutions. The aluminum strips that might have worked against older systems are irrelevant here. The F-35 doesn't rely on chaff and flares as its primary defense. Those systems exist as backup. The primary defense is invisibility. The aircraft's signature is small that the Toram-1 missiles, suddenly blinded, continue on their programmed course through empty desert. The first missile operator watches his target disappear completely from his screen. The second operator reports the same. The missiles, guided by command data link that has suddenly lost its target, continue following their last known trajectory. They pass through the airspace where the F-35 was supposed to be, find nothing, and continue until fuel exhaustion forces them to the ground. Two missiles, worth millions of dollars, leave nothing more than expensive debris scattered across the Iranian landscape. The celebration is premature, but the pilot maintains focus. His defensive systems have absorbed information and updated their threat libraries. His aircraft's computers have recorded every emission, every launch, every attempt to kill him. This data will be transmitted back to American intelligence analysts, who will incorporate it into the ever-growing database of Iranian air defense capabilities. The pilot's navigation system shows his position within 3 meters of actual location. His mission timer shows 8 minutes to go before the optimal roll release window closes. His fuel gauge shows 62%, more than enough to complete the mission and return home. But any more defensive maneuvers and he'll need to adjust his profile, potentially compromising the strike. 3 additional Iranian air defense batteries unmask simultaneously, their radars creating interlocking fields of fire across the northern approach corridor. The lead battery, an Avid system, ripple fires 4 missiles in 2.2 seconds, each programmed for a different intercept angle. This is modern Iranian doctrine at its finest, copied from Russian tactics but adapted to their own capabilities. Don't aim where the target is or where it's going, but put missiles everywhere it could possibly go. The guidance system makes these missiles particularly dangerous. That human operator can see every move, predict every break, adjust for every countermeasure. He's playing the world's most consequential video game. The pilot does something that would fail flight school evaluations for an F-16, but on an F-35 equipped with advanced fly-by-wire systems, it's simply another maneuver in the tactical repertoire. Controlled maximum climb at military power. The zoom climb trades forward speed for altitude in a precisely calculated manner. The aircraft rockets from 700 to 15,000 feet in 7 seconds, a maneuver that would cause excessive structural stress in older airframes, but which the F-35's composite structure handles with ease. The sudden vertical vector forces all 4 missiles to crane their seekers skyward simultaneously. Their guidance beams cross and interfere like 4 people trying to control the same television remote. The F-35's electronic warfare suite actively jams their command data links, inserting false steering commands that tell the missiles to fly toward each other. 2 missiles lose lock immediately, their receivers confused by conflicting signals and active jamming. The third maintains lock for a moment but can't match the climb angle and trajectory. It passes underneath by 300 meters, close enough to detonate on its proximity fuse, but far enough away that the fragmentation pattern misses the F-35's vital systems. Fragments pepper the fuselage, but the aircraft's armor protection, designed specifically for this scenario, absorbs the impact. Damage assessment: minor hits, no structural compromise, all systems nominal. The 4th missile has perfect position, out of fuel trying to match the vertical trajectory. It stalls 600 meters below, falling back to Earth like an expensive piece of scrap metal before detonating. The maneuver saves his life, and he's maintained enough fuel for the primary mission. His threat display shows new contacts appearing on the edges of his sensor range. F-4 Phantom fighters from the 1970s, operated by Iranian Air Force, vectoring in from 180 kilometers away. They're crewed by experienced pilots who have flown against Iraqi fighters, Turkish fighters, and American fighters during previous conflicts. They're flying platforms that were modern 40 years ago. Their Westinghouse AN/APQ-120 radars, though well-maintained, are mechanical scanning systems that operate on principles established in the 1960s. The lead F-4E's radar achieves lock at maximum effective range, around 35 kilometers, which is far shorter than the F-35's engagement envelope. This isn't the active scanning of a modern fighter. It's mechanical, rotating, slower, and utterly defeated by the F-35's stealth characteristics and electronic warfare suite. The pilot selects a different weapon. Instead of long-range missiles, the F-35's weapons bay opens and a GBU-12 Paveway 2 bomb falls from the rotary launcher, immediately boosting upward from the ejection system. The targeting pod, mounted on the aircraft's centerline, already locked onto the ground facility. This close-range engagement is actually preferable to the pilot's timeline. The F-4E pilots attempt to close within visual range, but they're flying against an opponent who has already through multiple sensor systems, calculated intercept geometry, and determined their exact position to within meters. The F-35's infrared system sees the F-4E's hot engines like searchlights in darkness. The electronic warfare system hears their radar emissions like someone shouting in a library. The pilot already knows the fight is over before it begins, but the mission objective is ground targets, not air-to-air engagement. Behind him, invisible, and already in its terminal guidance phase, the GBU-12 dives toward the command post location. The infrared seeker on the bomb's nose tracks the glowing target painted by the F-35's laser designator. The target building sits exactly where intelligence analysts predicted it would be. The laser beam, invisible to Iranian eyes but perfectly visible to the bomb's seeker, guides 125 kilograms of explosive toward a specific point on the structure's eastern wall. The pilot has descended to 8,000 feet, still well above the engagement envelope of the F-4E's air-to-air missiles, but close enough to maintain laser lock through the targeting pod. The Iranians are desperately attempting to jam the laser frequency, but American military laser systems operate across multiple frequencies, switching between them faster than their jamming equipment can follow. The bomb sees the laser spot and maintains perfect track. The F-4E pilot in the lead aircraft attempts a maneuver, banking hard left to dive toward lower altitude, where he might lose the F-35 in ground clutter. But the American pilot anticipated this exact movement. His aircraft's advanced fire control system predicts the Iranian pilot's trajectory based on his current flight parameters. Before the F-4E completes its first banking turn, the F-35 pilot has already calculated the intercept geometry. The AIM-120D Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile launches from the F-35's side weapon bay, its rocket motor igniting as it separates from the aircraft. The missile accelerates to Mach 4 while its active radar seeker locks onto the F-4E's powerful radar emissions. Unlike the old Sparrow missiles that the F-4E's generation of pilots trained against, the AIM-120D doesn't require continuous guidance from the launching aircraft. The missile can operate autonomously, maintaining lock through its own active seeker, giving the F-35 freedom to maneuver or engage other threats. The Iranian pilot attempts chaff deployment, releasing clouds of aluminum strips cut to lengths that match the AIM-120D's expected radar wavelengths. But modern American missiles filter out chaff returns through sophisticated signal processing algorithms. The missile's computer recognizes that chaff clouds appear too uniform, too predictable, while the F-4E's airframe returns appear chaotic and random. The missile distinguishes target from decoy with better than 95% success rate. The Iranian pilot attempts a hard turn, pulling 7 gears that his middle-aged airframe struggles to handle. The F-4E had upgraded significantly since the 1980s. The aircraft's structure groans in protest, but evasion is futile against a missile that can pull 30 Gs and has no physiological limitations. The proximity fuse activates at 30 meters distance. The 22-kilogram warhead detonates, filling a sphere of airspace with 3,000 meters per second fragmentation. The F-4E's fuselage, designed for 1960s threat levels, disintegrates. The pilot and weapons officer have no time to eject before their aircraft becomes wreckage falling toward the desert floor. Down below, the GBU-12 has completed its terminal guidance phase. The laser spot has remained locked on the command post's eastern wall throughout the brief air engagement. The bomb is now in the final 3 seconds of its descent. The targeting pod's infrared camera shows a perfect image of the target building, surrounded by truck parks, antenna arrays, and communications equipment. The bomb's flight computer makes final adjustments for wind drift, gravity compensation, and laser guidance updates arriving 10 times per second. At 50 meters altitude above the target, the bomb's fuse arms. At 30 meters, the laser spot is dead center on the building's main entrance. The pilot maintains laser lock as his aircraft continues its climb and turn to aggress the target area. Impact act occurs at 8:47 hours local time. The Paveway 2 strikes the exact point where the laser designator had painted the target. 125 kilograms of explosive, wrapped in a fragment-generating steel casing, detonates inside the command post structure. The blast pressure exceeds 200 pounds per square inch at the point of detonation, sufficient to collapse all structural support in the immediate vicinity. The building, constructed to Russian civil defense standards, but not designed to withstand precision munitions strikes, pancakes downward with all 4 floors collapsing simultaneously. The command post, which had been operational just seconds before, becomes a pile of rubble in 3.2 seconds. The secondary explosions begin immediately. Ammunition stored in the basement ignites from the blast heat and pressure. Vehicle fuel tanks rupture and burn. Diesel generators designed as backup power systems catch fire. Within 30 seconds, the entire installation is engulfed in flames. The Iranian personnel who survived the initial strike attempt to flee, but there's nowhere to go. The surrounding area has become an inferno. The F-35 climbs to 20,000 feet, his mission objective achieved. The pilot banks north, heading back across the border toward friendly airspace. His fuel gauge shows 41%, more than enough for the transit home. His threat display shows the remaining F-4E attempting to chase him, but the speed differential is too great. The Iranian fighter, maxing out at Mach 1.9, cannot close the distance to an F-35 traveling at Mach 1.5 with its targeting pod streamlined and minimal external stores. The American fighter pulls away steadily, the gap widening with each passing minute. The second F-4E attempts to intercept from a different vector, calculating where the F-35 might be if it maintains current heading. But the F-35 pilot alters his course by just 5 degrees, enough to miss the interception geometry by kilometers. The Iranian pilots are flying against an adversary whose sensors can see them from beyond their own detection range, whose missiles can engage them before they even know they're under attack, and whose aircraft's superior speed and maneuverability put them in an asymmetric engagement where victory is impossible. The F-35 transitions to subsonic cruise, preserving fuel for the journey home. The pilot transmits a SIM-coded message indicating successful mission completion. Back aboard the command ship anchored in the Persian Gulf, intelligence officers begin processing the imagery from the the targeting pod. Damage assessment teams will evaluate the post-strike reconnaissance, confirming the destruction of the Revolutionary Guard command post, the loss of an F-4E fighter, and the disruption of Iranian command and control capabilities in the northern sector. The pilot hands over his aircraft to maintenance crews at the forward operating base 1 hour later. The debrief will take several hours as intelligence officers extract every detail about Iranian air defense capabilities, the performance of new jamming systems, and the tactical procedures employed by Iranian pilots. The data will be fed into military intelligence databases, shared with allied nations, and incorporated into American operational planning for future contingencies. The F-35, having proven once again why it's the most expensive weapons system in military history, will be refueled, rearmed, prepared for the next mission. The mission has concluded. The Revolutionary Guard command post now only in satellite imagery and intelligence files. One man operated the aircraft that changed history for that brief hour over Iranian airspace. The machine designed to be an invisible delivered American precision and American power to an exact point on the globe where decision makers had chosen it should go. By the time the Iranian government realized what had happened, the F-35 was over international waters heading home.